Hi there, everyone. It's 4 o'clock in New York. So, you know those slapstick comedies where the thief shoves an item under his shirt and it's so obvious and so conspicuous that the scene isn't really about a robbery. It's really just to illustrate how stupid the thief is and how obvious the thieving part of the plot is? Well, that's about where we are with Donald Trump's attempt to get Republicans in Congress to steal from the American people to fund Donald Trump's gold-gilded ballroom. Tucked inside a $72 billion with the B dollar package filled with other politically toxic items, like $38 billion for ICE. ICE, of course, the agency viewed favorably by just 30% of the American people, and containing none of the reform measures that Democrats have demanded after the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. So tucked inside of that is a $1 billion lump sum for Donald Trump's ballroom. It is listed under, quote, security adjustments and upgrades. The Republican chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Chuck Grassley, says in a statement that the funds are for security only and they cannot be spent on, quote, non-security elements. But that $1 billion still goes towards something that the American people never asked for and don't want. And spending $1 billion of taxpayer money, of your money, on anything related to Donald Trump's gold ballroom would be a complete flip-flop, a 180-degree reversal from what Donald Trump promised.
The ballroom for the White House is the thing that you people have really, really been very generous with. These are all private individuals that put up a lot of money to build the ballroom. Not one penny is being used from the federal government. We're giving them, myself and donors are giving them free of charge for nothing. So we did this no charge to the taxpayer whatsoever. We have no taxpayer putting up 10 cents. I'm giving with donors $400 million to build the ballroom. And there's the knockout panel right here.
So not 10 cents, not $1, just $1 billion. A poll released last week shows that just 25% of all Americans support the White House ballroom at all. But when that poll asked who should pay for Donald Trump's gold ballroom, 9% of the respondents said that the money should be appropriated by Congress. Ask voters, and they will tell you that in a time of great economic distress, a gold ballroom is the last thing that the President of the United States of America should be spending his time on. Here's what some Florida residents told our colleague Alex Tabbitt last week.
Meanwhile, we're hearing President Trump insist that he needs a ballroom connected to the White House. What do you make of that?
Well, first of all, I think it's probably money that could be used elsewhere. You know what I'm saying? With the way the economy is, and people are starving. You know. Medication.
There's a lot of things we need to work on before we're doing a ballroom reconstruction, so I think it's a little ridiculous to me.
I think he's selfish. I think he wants something to be in his name, but I think, like she said, there's so much going on right now. I think that's the last thing that we should be worrying about.
He shouldn't be doing that. He should be focusing on lowering these prices that he jacked up, because it wasn't this high before he became president. Man, gas was $3-something. Barely $3. Now it's $4. You know, it's. He don't need to be talking about ballrooms, man. You need to be trying to fix the economy.
Is Donald Trump feeling today a little bit like Caesar? I think so. Remember et tu, Brute? You too, Brutus? Welcome back into Occupy Democrats, because in this breaking story, Donald Trump is probably feeling a little unsafe right now. And I do not mean the attack that happened at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Oh no, because Donald Trump hates it when anyone either beats him, and especially when they beat him based on making cash, because he needs to be the top con grifter dog, right? Well, in this breaking story, let's just roll the dice and see what happens, because we're just guessing, right? Oh, maybe not so much when it comes to prediction markets, and Trump is actually the brunt of the joke. It starts here.
Well, thanks to prediction markets, you can literally gamble on anything now.
Because, oh yeah, Donald Trump intends to cash in on all the 100% of the POTUS possibilities he can manipulate.
And Donald Trump certainly wants to cash in on it. Since his inauguration, sites like Polymarket and Kalshi have exploded in popularity, letting people bet or contract, as they call it, on everything from elections to celebrity gossip, even to wars overseas.
I mean, for sure, military people know exactly what's going to happen with a military operation, right?
An active duty U.S. Special Forces soldier is accused of betting on the operation that captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Master Sergeant Gannon Ken Van Dyke was involved with the planning and execution of the early January operation and winning $400,000.
And America's chief Nepo baby, Donald Trump Jr., is somehow an advisor to both of these companies, even though they're in competition with each other.
And certainly there's no corruption. It's fine that Don Jr. is a consultant to both Polymarket and Kalshi, because maybe a burner phone with Dad, you think, here?
Mr. Chairman, are you aware that President Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., has been hired as an advisor for both Kalshi and Polymarket, two competing companies?
Congressman, I'm aware of this.
And even people in Trumposphere land, presented with the easiest yes ever, still won't say it here.
And would you say that it's accurate then that the Trump family has a financial stake in how these prediction markets are regulated?
Congressman, I believe this hypothetical that you're trying to engage in is a political exercise.
I don't know how this is hypothetical. The president's son is. So it seems to me like the only reason two competing companies hired the same person is because they think he must be really, really, really valuable.
But when the BBC is on to you, you know the jig is up.
Now, the BBC has found a pattern of spikes in trades and financial markets ahead of public announcements by US President Donald Trump, including during the Iran war. It's raised suspicions of insider trading, whereby bets are made by people based on information that is not available to the general public.
But in this breaking story, when your own team, the people you've chosen to be around you, are quietly on burner phones, betting against what your future life will be as president in the White House, you know, yeah, hey, Trump, you're Caesar, and they're all, in this breaking story, Brutus. Check this story out.
GOP staffers secretly using burner phones to bet against their own party. Republican insiders watching President Donald Trump's grip on power slip ahead of the midterms have started to use burner phones, while it's believed that some staffers are wagering on prediction markets, according to a report. Polymarket, an online prediction market platform, has suggested as of Tuesday that Democrats have an 84% chance of taking control.
There's a version of the story where $1 billion in taxpayer money going toward a gold ballroom is the outrage you live with. And it is outrageous, genuinely, straightforwardly outrageous. A president who stood at a podium and promised on camera that not one dime of federal money would go toward this project is now attempting to slip $1 billion into a reconciliation with under the label security adjustments and upgrades. The number started at 200 million, became 300 million, became 400 million, and is now $1 billion. Before the actual construction costs, which will presumably be on top of that, the slapstick metaphor being used, the thief with the item showed under his shirt is accurate. This isn't clever, it isn't subtle, it is exactly what it looks like. But the more important story isn't the $1 billion itself, it is what the $1 billion reveal about how this White House is currently operating. Sam Steen's read on the information ecosystem around Trump is the most analytically useful thing being said in this segment. No conflicting information getting it, a cabinet that performs gratitude at meetings like it is a competitive sport, and news consumption limited to the sources that confirm existing beliefs. The result is a president making calculated vanity plays. It is a president who has lost the feedback loops that functioning executive depends to defense on to understand when they are making mistakes. Will the wall worked as a message because it connected a policy position to a visceral voter concern about economic displacement and national identity. Will the ballroom does the same thing, but in reverse. It connects a presidential obsession to calm economic pain that voters are experiencing in real time at the gas pump. The message writes itself, and nobody around Trump apparently has the standing or the courage to say no. The commie thread that gets erased is worth tracking carefully. Trump wanted to end the commie in 2017. He wanted it under Sessions. He wanted it under Barr. He wanted it under the guy in between. He wanted it under Bundy. He is ending it now under Blanche. The variable across 88 years of wanting the same thing wasn't Trump. It was whether the people around him would execute. The people wouldn't are gone. What remains is a staff. Was Operation Mandate, according to Republican sources, is essentially let Trump be Trump and don't get in the way. That mandate is now producing $1 billion ballroom line item in a reconciliation bill, a Comey indictment that legal analysts across the spectrum describe as a serious overreach, and a ward vote's primary justification has just been sent contradicted by the administration's own intelligence. The 9% figure needs to be repeated. 9% of Americans think Congress should appropriate funds for the White House ballroom. This is not a political issue. This is not a question where partisan framing produces different outcomes. 9%, the other 91% across parties, across demographics, across every regional and ideological subdivision you can construct, thing is wrong. And yet, here it is tucked into a reconciliation bill next to $38 billion for an agency that only 30% of Americans view favorably. The political instincts that produced this decision is so detached from public opinion that it functions almost as a stress test for how far institutional deference can carry an agenda that nobody asked for. The Florida voters being interviewed are doing something important without realizing it. They are articulating a coherent political argument in plain language that no consultant has polished. Gas was $3, now it's $4. He doesn't need to be talking about ballrooms. He needs to fix the economy. That is not a talking point. That's a direct statement of priorities from exactly the voters whose defection makes the midterm math unworkable for Republicans. When a Florida resident standing at a gas pump is connecting to the ballroom, to the gas price, to the war, to the economic priorities of the administration in a single sentence, the communication problem isn't that Democrats haven't found the right message. It is that the message is already out there, being constructed organically by people saying $4.48 a gallon. The reconciliation process detail that gets mentioned almost is in passing is actually the most tactically significant part of this story. Democrats will have the opportunity to force an up or down vote specifically on the $1 billion ballroom appropriation. Every Republican senator will have to go and record. That vote will exist. It will be in the record. It will be in campaign ads. Every Republican who votes yes will own it in a district where gas is at $4.48 and constituents are being asked to absorb an IRS audit risk, a healthcare cost spike, and a traffic regime, while their tax dollars fund a gold ballroom for a president who promised it would cost them nothing. That's not a complicated political argument. It's a receipt. With the wall was a promise about what the president would do for his voters. Will the ballroom is a demonstration of what he is actually doing to them. The epitaph writes itself, the question is whether enough Republicans read it before number.